Okay, let's get this going. Welcome back. Part 2 of this episode, I guess. Part 11A and now 11AB. Since this is 11A.
$3 worth of gas, and $1 is going to drive this motor, and the other $2 is actually your contribution to polluting the planet. So basically, that's why our technology is revolutionary, because we're using existing technology and just using more advanced knowledge, more higher technology on existing lower and destructive technology, which is explosive combustion, and we're replacing that with implosive.
Just thinking again about the water Celsius thing. I'm like, he just said that. That's like a slogan of his. The thing he just said, he said several times. Which, I mean, maybe, like, that's just how he does it. Like, he presents this, like, several times in his life. Smaller scale, and when he does, he says that, and it's just something that he just says about it whenever he's talking about it, that there is this aspect of, well, like, usually he talks about the inefficiency of the engine and then how it undoes it, so he basically has the same, like, what you're doing to the planet versus, like, healing the planet kind of like way of presenting it, which maybe is valid if I don't know, but if it worked, but my guess is at least this, maybe if it worked. The things shooting to the ionosphere is totally different technology, although maybe he would say that it's the same principles, and maybe it is. When we go through it, I don't know if he went through it yet. I know he talked about it earlier in the episodes, but I don't remember. But back to the Celsius. I was thinking it's the 100 Celsius is the boiling point, and 0 is the freezing of water. But, like, that's real interesting. Then it not only it has the one hinge of just the boiling or of the freezing of 0, but it also has another hinge at 100 of just setting it at the boiling point is 100 as like a kind of like a meter kind of thought pattern, like for just technical reasons, not like 0, 100. Okay. And then I'm done. I just don't know if it's. I mean, water is so unique, like so unique. Cheers to that. A little shout out to Be Life Water. .com. Infowars.com. Infowars.com. Oh my god. It's just comedic gold when Alex Jones is just yelling as a segment ends with some interview. Infowars.com. Like, I mean, if he's not Bill Hicks, he's hilarious. Maybe that just, if he's not Bill Hicks, maybe that just suggests that everyone's hilarious in their own way. And I think being hilarious, though, really is a function of understanding, like true understanding. So Bill Hicks being Bill Hicks took a level of understanding of things, of certain things. I guess everyone has their own. That's the thing. Maybe it's just everyone has their own equal, focused understanding that they like, and those who are closer in resonance to their focused understanding, more similar, just like radiate and interact with neighbors more so. Sorry, a little distracted on that one. Thoughts. Let's just play.
Atomic force that can recover that energy. The next, the pre-ionization chamber. We're going through those elements here again, just to reinforce what I've already said. And this is the
I'm like, what was I talking about though? Neighbors interact with thoughts, hilarity, Alex Jones. Like going back in this train of thought. Bill Hicks, sorry, Bill Hicks, Alex Jones.
UV light. Again, going back to section 1 where we showed that the star in the jar was 7,000 a second collapsing bubbles using ultrasonics. We create microbubbles in them.
Admittedly, that's why I muted myself and didn't play, but then I was like, I don't know what I was talking about. Oh yeah, he used that slogan, and I was talking about Celsius. And then water. Okay, now I remember the full train. Got back to where I was. Oh my, I really connected the dots back. I was like, what the hell was I talking about? Can I do it again? This is a big one. Something about Bill Hicks and Alex Jones. Infowars.com, water, belifewater.com, Infowars.com, Alex Jones. Bill Hicks. Hilarity. Whether or not, like, there's a mastery in hilarity, if, like, everyone's hilarious, just depending on the audience. Like, truly. Maybe. Maybe.
It's not a free energy device. It's simply recovering wasted energy. You go into the petrol station, you put $3 worth of gas, and $1 is going to drive this motor, and the other $2 is actually your contribution to polluting the planet. So here, so basically, that's why our technology is revolutionary, because we're using existing technology and just using more advanced knowledge, more high.
But yeah, I was talking about how water is unique also, and Celsius. And I think it's worth pausing and thinking about this. Because, like, what is water anyway? Sure, it's H2O in our perception when we think in chemicals, but, like, what is it? Sometimes I think it's like a perfect balance. Or maybe it's just a thing that is. Or like consciousness. I mean, there's so much potential for what it is. So, like, in the scheme, so my thoughts is, like, from a Kelvin standpoint, water is basically irrelevant. Like, its presence is just, like, from our perception, but from a Kelvin standpoint, it's just 0 to basically infinity Kelvin, and 0 being absolute 0 that cannot be passed, and then, like, as high as we measure, at least, and which could theoretically approach infinity, let's say. So it doesn't really, like, have water necessarily in that, although in the more real world the temperatures don't get that high, so maybe it, like, takes an infinite scale and really more so puts it at, like, a cap, a upper limit in our perception. And then water's more so, like, it's not, like, subtly at the base, like at 100, or at 373 Kelvin, I think, which is 100. Wait, that's boiling. Well, whatever. whatever temperature. It's somewhere in that range. I don't know why I was focusing on boiling. I was attempting to focus on freezing, and that's why I said, wait, that's boiling. It didn't matter though. Now I'm just giving away all the truths. I mean, it wasn't like that bad. It was just me distracted anyway. I'm just thinking, like, does it matter? Does water matter in a Kelvin standpoint? And does it maybe provide a better hinge than Kelvin? Because Kelvin's kind of ignoring, in a way, ignoring our reality. Although it does, it's not like in the middle, like of 0 to infinity in our reality of our perception. Like it basically is like in the hundreds, is where thousands sometimes. Like we're not seeing a huge spectrum of it. But I don't know. I mean, I'm just thinking there's definitely something unique and fundamental to water. Maybe I'm just in terms of making Celsius an actually useful focus for the types of ways that he's used Celsius, like 432 Celsius, etc.
High technology on existing lower and destructive technology, which is explosive combustion, and we're replacing that with implosive atomic force that can recover that energy. The next. The pre-ionization chamber, we're going through those elements here again just to reinforce what I've already said. And this is the UV light, again going back to section 1 where we showed that the star in the jar was 7,000, the second collapsing bubbles using ultrasonics where you create microbubbles.
What was he just talking about? Okay.
Which is the star in the jar was 7,000, the second collapsing bubbles using ultrasonics where you create microbubbles in the water that then collapse and create this UV light and indicating an atomic reaction. The air is drawn into the chamber by a vacuum emanating from the engine that is to be pre-treated before it enters the plasmoid generator. It is pre-treated by exposing the air to ultraviolet light at a specific frequency, about 100 nanometers. This frequency is determined by the frequency of ultraviolet light emitted from collapsing bubbles within our MC.
I think he each time is correcting it to nanometers at this point. Like the way he paused on it. Although each time he pauses, and I guess because he's like, these slides are all not quite what it is. It's 100 nanometers, which is good. It's a good sign, I guess, given that I noticed that it doesn't say that, and then all the things that happen.
Plasmoid generator, that is, star in the jar bubbles, the colour of that, the frequency that I took, because I thought, well, if it's generating that frequency after it collapses, then if we give it that frequency before, it'll be a stronger result. The bubbles collapse violently as they are exposed sequentially to both vacuum and pressure pulses.
I'm not sure if that would be true. Like, I think of it almost like, well, it's dependent on what's going in. Like, if you change what's going in, it's gonna just change the outcome. So, like, if you see 100 and change it to 100 here, you see 100 in the plasmoids in their frequency when they collapse, and then you change it to 100 at this source pre-treatment step, likely you would genuinely like adjust. Maybe you wouldn't necessarily cause it to drop so much that you couldn't catch up, but I would expect several steps of it like adjusting where like by having a different source, the emitted light is a different frequency. If this is all happening, like I would expect something more of that nature. Although maybe 100 nanometers is some sort of like unit, like fundamental, iterative fundamental particle size that like is why it's having this like wavelength when it collapses that it emits, that maybe would be more like stationary. I'm not sure if I guess by putting that frequency in, it could essentially increase the presence of that frequency in the plasmoid that's being generated. So I guess if it's like innate that it would do 100, then it would make sense. But I'm still not sure that that's wouldn't be a function of the energy input more so, like most things are. I mean, there's certainly like hydrogen, which is like a stable atom that repeatedly forms in like literally like a planet, a fractal system that if we could zoom in on it, it would look like a star even. Where like no stars are said to be literally identical. Like that's hydrogen, that's hydrogen, that's hydrogen equivalent. Like they're put in groups, but they're still like that's the sun, that's Sirius, whatever. Like they're not put in a periodic table. That's my point. In some way where everything that's hydrogen is hydrogen. Although, like, if we could zoom in on it, we would see it's not so exact as that. That it's much more nuanced and infinite and fractal and just having, just like the planets, different characteristics. Like no two planets are identical. Although maybe in time, like across time, they can evolve through it in a way where they really are like the periodic table, and just we haven't even like recognized which ones are which atoms, if you will. I mean, it's possible that like this cycle of time has those kinds of things in it too. Where if we could see enough processes of planets that we could see it, like study it like we study atoms and start to build a more chemistry of it all and all those types of things. I'm a little sidetracked, but back to what we were talking about. Like, again, though, that kind of points to that the frequency would be dependent and not independent of the input. So by changing the input energy, the output should have a change, I would suspect. Unless it's just like, I don't know.
Resulting from the movement of the piston within the combustion chamber. That is, the piston goes up, compresses, pulls back, pulls a vacuum. And it's important that it's actually a measuring cup. It's measuring equal proportions of pressure and vacuum. This has the effect of making the gases more reactive by ionising a small percentage of each gas present in the air, i.e. nitrogen, oxygen and argon. And of course, argon is the main player. So next, this is the schematic, just simply showing that we have a designer-built UV light emanating the exact combination of three major frequencies that we need as the key to the ionisation process. And the next,
Like it's a light bulb.
then
Let's go back here.
showing that we have a designer-built UV light emanating the exact.
Oh, it actually is a light bulb, I say. A designer built UV light.
Combination of three major frequencies that we need as the key to the ionisation process.
Okay, okay.
And the next, then here's the actual plasmoid generator.
Frequencies we need, but it goes back to that. I feel like it would change it.
And then this is water, and this just shows the internal configuration. Down here is the diffuser, and so it diffuses out, so we get more micro bubbles, and here it's concentrated in the top with a basic water trap here, so that we just get water in its gas phase and no water itself coming through the system. With the smaller systems, we don't bother with a water trap. We've found it's quite effective as it is with this design. Next. And here you have where it goes to, the output of the exhaust going into the three gates, which it will see no water itself coming through the system. With the smaller systems, we don't bother with a water trap. We've found it's quite effective as it is with this design. Next. And here you have where it goes to, the output of the.
Okay, I thought it did that.
Exhaust going into the three gates, which it will see in a later section of the work. Historically, throughout the world, you have the small gate, the large gate, and another small gate. So two small gates, a large gate. These are the two small gates, and here's the large gate. This mimics.
No. I would say if there's something of this nature, it's probably good to have big, medium, small. For the inlet side, where what's coming in is big, like or maybe small, medium, large. Something where it's more in tune with the earth. I don't know. Let me just show what I'm talking about. And here, okay, let's get the map. It's just a shallogram kind of stuff. I know, no, what the fuck is this dude talking about? These kinds of things. This is caused by current flows that flow through this rock, which may be worth talking about with regard to Malcolm Bendall's research or his inventions or whatever's going on with Malcolm Bendall's concepts. Like the concepts he's talking about, it's worth talking about that shallograms are not fossils of living creatures that have now been fossilized. They are fossils of currents that flowed through the stone, that shaped the stone, that caused like things of this nature. Ammonites, the entire class of fossils has been misclassified. Like this one right here is a good example of one that literally goes across. Here's one, here's a second one. So this, according to science, this is a fossil. And so this is a fossil. here. So there's two fossils, one here, one here. But notably, they're kind of together, which we could say they're broken. Like they broke. Okay. But the thing is this one that literally flows into this one, and they are one. And so they're not fossils. It's really that simple. And they're like all of them, maybe not as pronounced. Once we realize that they're not fossils, all of them show that they're not fossils, but like there's a lot of them that really show it, like that one. Or like this one. This one's one of my favorites I've ever seen. It's just so incredible. This is supposedly a matrix that formed around the shell of this creature that, mind you, has a little ball in here, a sphere, added chakras, and then the matrix itself, the matrix itself, then went around the fossil. Oh my god, why did I do that? I don't know. This goes this way though. Okay, cool. And then it looks like it overlays a terminal, almost like a current that flowed into here and out this way and up and around and back in, and just like through a cycle that was kind of held in place. I mean, certainly my explanations of them all are like, oh my god. They're just incredible. I don't want to get too distracted on shallograms. I'll just scroll through real quick. These are all from online shops like Etsy and Rudraksh Guru, mostly. And most of the ones, if not all, the ones with a white background are from that shop. But the rest are basically Etsy and eBay searching shallograms. Sorry that I'm not linking you guys. I know these are people's images that I've linked them so many times. It's hard to just like link all of these again and again, especially if to scroll through them all. I know I'm like kind of, in some way, it's like maybe unjust. I would say. I feel bad about it, but at the same time, it's like what can I reasonably do? Maybe it would be good to really start a document of the shallograms. I mean, part of the issue is the links are literally like shops. The Rudraksh Guru, they have even stones that they've sold in the past. So they just have a excellent list of just shallograms to check out. I'm just kind of scrolling through, so they're in this video. Like, what is going on with this boot? What is this boot? Why didn't I say that the first time? God, get your head in the game, bro. This has a little, if you notice right here, this indentation. This is very common. Although I don't know what to make of the overall structure. Like, what? Although that really, honestly, that this is here might point in a direction that I had not thought before. I don't want to get distracted thinking about shallograms. But that's interesting. This is probably not the best example, but they tend to form terminals like this, and then here, maybe, I think on this one, it's here. It's hard to see on this one, is essentially a boundary, and then a little like nub out here. I'll find another one. Most of them actually are very visible. This one's nub is here, much more visible. Some kind of product of the current flows flowing through the stone that systematically produce that nub when it produces that feature. Like, it's not like this feature, although maybe they're related in ways that I don't understand. But here, like, here's another one, really just like pronounced. And honestly, it just occurred to me, it looks kind of like an eyeball or some kind of nucleus that a current going around and has two segments, like the snake head kind of thing that pops up a lot. Notice a spiral around it. This one's got cool features. Perfect sphere. Just these things are incredible. Why was I talking about this? Okay, back to this. Here's a shallogram feature, the similar feature. Let's get we'll just go through some shallograms of the Earth real quick, just to show that they're like not just rocks. We'll start in Hawaii at this place that I forgot its name, like I don't remember, but it's got these things round, and then this kind of feature here is very interesting. It's maybe not quite as perfectly shallogrammy, but it's got features. Hawaii, while we're at it, might as well look at the ammonite shape here. So this is kind of shallogram like shape, but it also here that is more like literally one that's like this big. I've looked in this region, and essentially it's hard to say exactly which ones are true and which ones are like partial and therefore not really like not strong evidences. But anyway, let's not get distracted on whether or not people can like accepting what I'm saying. Another chakra, another shallogram feature here with the chakra really distinct here. But then the overall shallogram feature on both sides having especially visible here. This side's more visible, this side's more just like land, more normal looking, I guess. This one's got the chakras very distinct. Then if we come over here to the crown, here's a crown. If we come to the crown and go to the top of the snow here, there's a river. I believe this is the right place. It doesn't look right. Where are you? Oh, there it is. Wait, no? Maybe? No. Is that it? No. Am I in the right place? There's more than one crown looking thing. This is definitely it. Okay, it goes up here. Where's this river? Let's follow the river. Follow the river. I don't think that's how... Okay, here we go. We found it. We did it. No. Here. Here. I talk about this in other places. My shallogram playlist is extensive. And then here, so there's three different, these are all features I've pointed similar looking shallograms. There's also something going on over here, I noticed, that maybe is similar nature. And honestly, maybe they're even in here. In this region or something, like anywhere along under the snow. could be more of these types of locations. Like these aren't just because these are the only ones we found. Don't mean there's not more in this region. Although maybe that's like really where they're. This is where they all shallograms are said to originate right here. So it's pretty like only there that they're found. But then right here, notice this shallogram type feature with this type W thing. So this W thing is what I was talking about. Is this W thing shows up over here, and it shows up here, 1, 2, but then there's also up here. I forget exactly what the boundary of this region that I was thinking was. Maybe like here, where it's above water, so it doesn't really have the appearance of a third chamber type thing, but I think it has like a third segment, and it just happens in all over the place, like San Francisco Bay here, like a W shape, which, since we're talking about it and I compare it to the Philippines, or sorry, to Sulawesi. I forget what this island's called. Banggai. Bangay? That's like a W. So my thought is, I believe that like this one especially represents what I'm kind of thinking of: deep, medium, shallow. So in this case, it's so shallow. It's so shallow that it's actually elevated in a way. And then in this case, it's just more actually visibly. And then this one, deep. I'm not sure. Let's see. Let's compare. How deep? Black Sea, Mediterranean Sea. Maybe put in Eastern if it's significant. Okay, Eastern. And then Caspian Sea topography. Shallow, medium, deep. Shallow, medium, deep. So my thought is it goes doop, doop, and goes from a small chamber, but a chamber, to a larger chamber, to a bottom chamber, and this 1, 2, 3 trend is like, it's all over the place on the earth, and where it has this tier of 3-tier kind of way of forming energy flow, how energy flows and shapes things. So my thought is, in short, in conclusion, that maybe rather than this, like if this works, it might actually be better doing small, like the first chamber, medium, large, and make it more like anode, separator, cathode. That's essentially how I've come to conclude what's happening when it does that thing, that there's some actual energetic, like anode, separator, cathode type of manifestation occurring in the way the energy, like that is one, separates and then has a, like basically a main current a dominant current and a recessive current, like a hand, like a flows like the hand of God, which then like grabs things. Basically, like there's some mass, and then a current comes along and starts pushing it, and then that mass gets lodged in place. So the current starts to go around it on both sides, but it takes basically a primary path that it flows and then a secondary path that it also carved as it went around it, but one of the paths was the path that it more so went around, so it systematically, in the same way as the W, flows like the hand of God, of the James Webb Space Telescope kind of hand of God, or also like this. Thoughts. So here, though, even though it doesn't look like it, is actually this X-ray source. So this is the X-ray of this. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is legitimately the X-ray of this image. I looked around, I was, at some point I was like, that can't be, and then I found it, like, this is on space.com. Might look like an X-ray from the doctor's office, but is actually a cloud of material ejected from a star that exploded. Like, it is so incredible. But it basically flows as a primary path. It even looks like a lava flow, like a hot flow flowing through a current, basically a current flowing that hits this resistance of this system that's here and starts to go around it. But like there's an like dimensions of things going on, almost like a slope that just like is causing this current to flow like through a channel, like it's contained. It's not just flowing freely through space, like it's actually flowing through a channel, and then it hits this X-ray or this object in this that ends up being like at the wrist or palm, almost like a Hamsa hand, I don't know how to say it, Hamsa hand of God, also like this, although this one doesn't have quite the dominant recessive flow. Maybe this is a perfect balance, like perfect balance. Maybe that's real interesting. Holy shit. Maybe that is a perfect balance, and sometimes it can do like the palm to one side or the palm to the other side, or the thumb to one side, thumb to the other, and that determines like which spin or which positive, negative, whatever your kind of way of looking at things you may want to consider. Like if it's like if it's a positive or negative charge or just something of that nature. Yeah, because positive, like if imagine there's a mound, and then there's like, or like a mass, a planet, whatever, a star, and a current flowing, but it's flowing at it, and the mound is perfectly centered down the current, then the current will run into it and basically go around it, like carve around the object, and then it'll like basically keep trying to go straight, so it'll carve a straight path with secondary currents and then like tertiary currents that's balanced where these maybe behave as sort of backstops to support the current, almost like nodes, spine, some type of, as the energy flows, it also blossoms out, dendrital, like holding space for the current so the current can flow kind of things, but it's just balanced. Whereas, like, if the mass is to a side of some slope, that's so it's just simply not balanced, then depending on where the mass is, the resulting current will either go, or maybe something. I was thinking, initially I was thinking it would form, like for a positive, it would form a larger, like, a, almost like a chamber that's flowing over, like on the upper section. Like, imagine a slope like this, so, but it pushes the material up this way. So it goes up higher around the stone, let's say, and then it flows back as the dominant current instead of going around the other side. I don't know if that would ever really happen. Depending on like the approach, maybe the angle, the circumstances of the slopes. So I guess like depending on circumstances, which is then what produces an imbalance, which then leads to things like the hand of God, which is perhaps coming an energy flow, a current generally flowing into this region, but then going around it and then turning, like a turn, like a right hand, left hand, like that, the way magnetic fields are, the rules. I don't even remember the rules, pardon me. I think it's the left hand rule, right hand rule. Hey, I learn a lot of things. It's hard to like store it all, you know. It's kind of like a language if you don't use it. It's almost like a race to see if I can hold it all in long enough to combine it. It's melting away. Fuck. Gotta put pressure on it. Pressure. Go. I don't know. It really does seem like this is probably like represents balance in some way. I wonder if balance is just listed anywhere. Not on the Wikipedia, okay. This one doesn't show it balanced. I feel like this one, it's just balanced though. Like a hand's not, but that is. Two hands are, I guess. Well, maybe it's like two hands. Well.
The output of the exhaust going into the three gates, which we'll see in a later section of the work historically.
Just look to see if I was muted. Contemplate if it would have mattered. Realize, you know, I would have been sad to have not recorded that. What would I have done? Like, I don't want to fucking be re-recording things I muted. Thankfully, it wasn't muted. Okay.
Throughout the world, you have the small gate, the large gate, and another small gate. So two small gates, a large gate. These are the two small gates, and here's the large gate. This mimics the function of a plasmoid. If you think about an imploded sphere, if you imploded a sphere onto here, then a big sphere, then you'd have, it'd be an infinity symbol here, and so you have a sphere here with a centre, and a sphere here with a centre, and then the large open centre in the middle, and throughout cultures in the world, this is what is called the large gate and the two small gates. Okay, and besides the three gates, there's something else on this schematic which is important. Is you'll notice we have electrical insulators here, because effectively this is a particle accelerator. So you've got a positive and a negative end, which you've seen on the other slides. You'll see later down the presentation, and that means that the positive particles are racing this way, the negative this way, so you have their collapse or collisions within the centre, which makes this a very powerful device in that it's mimicking the exact structure of the, I mean, obviously the donuts in 3D, but this is sort of like, you think of this as just one of the mirror planes here. Again, you'll see it's a mirror plane. You've got the half spheres mirroring each other. So, and it's a mirror plane in this direction as well, obviously here, here and here. And obviously it's got the north and south pole, so it's a mirror plane there as well. It's actually got quite a lot going on, even though it's a simple structure. But if you imagine that's a donut, and that this is the centre of the donut, the centre points, and that this is the black hole in the middle of the donut where it's imploded, where you have your original sphere imploded, north and south pole into the centre to create the donut or the plasmoid structure. Okay, next. Again, reinforcing that what we're talking about here is that this is the positive end, because the exhaust products chemically positively charged, the burnt hydrocarbons and the surviving plasmoids, which are now net positive charge, injected here, and of course the water in its gas phase and the negative charge plasmoids here. So therefore you have a point roughly around here where you have a 0 point plane or an event horizon, which does cause the reconstruction of matter. Again, to reinforce, that's a thunderstorm, as everyone's familiar with, that cold, wet air and hot, dry air colliding and making thunderstorms, and everyone's familiar with that. The other thing to point out is there an amplification effect, because when you have a highly charged positive particle, therefore it's going to be attracted to the oxygen, which will pull the oxygen in, which then puts the hydrogen, which is highly positive charge, on the outside of that microsphere. And all water droplets have a centre, a nucleus. Without a nucleus, water rain cannot form, even if it's well below the dew point. It can't form unless it has a nucleus, and that nucleus, by definition, is either positive or negative. The strength of that is that it's a force multiplier, because by having a negative...
By definition...
Without a nucleus, rain cannot form, even if it's well below the dew point. It can't form unless it has a nucleus, and that nucleus, by definition, is either positive or negative. The strength of that is that it's a force multiplier, because by having a negative nucleus, you pull in all the positives, so the outside is then negative, so now you've amplified the negative charge in the atmosphere and the water. But if you have a positive particle, it's going to repel the positive and put all the positives on the outside, which amplifies the charge, and that's the charge-discharge mechanism that the plasmoids come up to equalise before it becomes threatening to life. Because if the plasmoids, whose job is homeostasis, that is to keep the status quo, you can't have the atmosphere charged up to a level which is going to destroy living things. So this is a very necessary process, is the discharge. Next. Here's the same sort of diagram, just showing the thundercloud and the warm air coming up and the cold air and the downdrafts that occur. The next. And here is some of the effects here, where you can get a wall cloud and a very familiar tornado sort of thunderstorm effect. And that's really what we're mimicking here. If you look at this from the top and looking down, you've actually got this swirling, expanding flow here in a vortex, and with an imploding flow in the centre, going down and then exploding out. So this is very much mimicked by our thunderstorm generator device. Equal and opposite flows. That's exactly how you lift trucks and tear houses apart and lift houses and semi-trailers, and even tractors off, as if they don't weigh anything. One can understand that what forces are involved here Therefore, I hope people's minds can say, oh, okay, I understand that. That's a model. We know that's a lot of force, and wow, it's really good that that's been thought of and put into a mechanical device that can recover waste energy from our engines and smokestacks. Next. Here's the same thing again with the vortex ring, and put a cross section through there. We've just seen the small sphere, and the big sphere, and that's the cross section that we just saw. That's like you'll see later in the presentation, the small gate, and the large gate. And this is the sort of ground impact area. So our ground impact area is our spheres, where you have the maximum collision of not only opposing gases and opposing vortices, but also collision of the protons and electrons that are the net positive and net negative charge at either end of our device. Next. Just to amplify that, is there you have your spins, and you can see this, the implosion here. As I said, this coming in here can be minus 85 degrees, and this can be 800 degrees. And this amplification here is moving into a vacuum, but the interaction is on this membrane between your 4-inch and 3-inch sphere on the smaller motors, and the bigger motor that you'll see is we've seen is the 24-inch, 18-inch sphere. And also as a flow guide, swell guide, sometimes we put in the 2-inch centre, but the 2-inch centre actually makes it get to too high a temperature, so to reduce its function but still have the effect, we just remove the centre sphere in normal operation.
Okay. All right then. Maybe I'll go back a little. This was interesting. Made me think of someone, the vape guy. Maybe this guy's an incredible vape pen trick guy. This guy, like, pardon me, so I'm just gonna play the. Made me think of this. This is Vostinel. 5 years ago. Play a little bit of this. Oh my god. Dude. Oh my god. That's genuinely incredible. The way that smoke flows. Part may look weird, but let's just not get this video taken down or anything. Holy shit, that's a lot of smoke. Fucking A, guys. I mean, he's straight up an airbender. You just give him his black belt in airbending, I guess. Okay, definitely have to remember to link that. Okay, it was also this. Also, it was this. This made me think of a chakra. I was thinking about chakra allotted during this slide. It's like, is this? Alright, I'll be back in the next one. See you guys then. Peace.